Mortal Kombat, a 2021 film about punches, kicks, and chicks with desire to be worthy of a dragon marking. Video game movie adaptations tend to have a terrible history. When it comes to video games being translated into movies, while they may do well sometimes, majority of the time they are pretty comparable to a trash can. Let me give you a couple of examples of video game movie adaptations that just didn't do too well. Super Mario Bros., Doom, the entire Resident Evil franchise, Rampage, Assassin's Creed, even World of Warcraft has had a movie adaptation. Now, this isn't the first adaptation of Mortal Kombat into a movie. There's been multiple adaptations of Mortal Kombat, with the first releasing in 1995. This movie also got a sequel which may potentially feature one of the worst lines in cinematic history.
You're alive. Too bad you will die.
And you are dead. So they've tried this before, and in 2021, they've tried it again. However, this version isn't as bad as long as you turn your brain off whilst watching. I wouldn't recommend turning your brain off though, it's actually really quite difficult to turn it back on. This movie has some names I'm quite unfamiliar with though, so rather than being sold on an actor being in the film, I went more so because I was interested to see how well it would translate to a movie. Spoiler alert, it's average. First of all, the main character is a guy named Cole Young. Fucking who? Out of all the characters they could have used as the main character, they chose Cole Young. The movie begins in 1617 at a compound owned by Hanzo Hasashi, who later becomes Scorpion. Oh wait, I've already spoiled it. Fuck. A baby is crying and Hanzo's wife and son go to check on her when suddenly the air is chillier. This is when disaster strikes, when some random gets absolutely skewered outside, and this requires the baby to be hidden in a safe space. A cold-hearted man by the name of Bihan is the one responsible for the slaughter and wants to know where Hanzo is. Joke's on him though, Hanzo is out getting some of that fresh H2O for later tonight. Bihan has the ability to create and control ice, and in the summer, this would be an absolute game changer. The ability to create your own super dupers at will. Seriously guys, anyone want a Capri Sun? A Magnum? A fucking Calippo? Hanzo hears a scream and runs back to find that his wife and son have been frozen by Bihan. It's gruesome, but nothing a warm blanket wouldn't fix. That will make a lot more sense later. Not sponsored, but you need one of these. Right? Your family wouldn't have froze if you had one of these. Just saying. Hanzo, however, doesn't have a microwave nearby though, so he can't just put his family on defrost mode. A fight with Hanzo and a bunch of ninjas takes place, but because it's Mortal Kombat, you probably don't care too much about the fighting. Okay, this fighting's pretty cool. A pretty gnarly fight between Bihan and Hanzo takes place. Dude gets stabbed, dude gets thrown. I've always been amazed by how much damage a character in a Mortal Kombat game can take. Hanzo gets sent to the Shadow Realm. He dies. Cole Young is our main character for this movie, and yeah, I hear you. Who the fuck is Cole Young? Sounds like some trash indie rapper with 50 followers on SoundCloud. Cole is a fighter, and a really average one. You see, he gets paid to be beaten up and lose fights. If I knew that was a job, I'd be making so much money in high school. I got bullied a lot. Cut to a place called Outworld. Don't question how the structure of this bridge even works, but Bihan is still alive. But now he goes by Sub-Zero, and he's meeting an evil wizard named Shang Tsung. So it's 2021 now. The last time we saw Bihan was in 1617. This means that Bihan is now over 400 years old. His character, however, according to the games, is aged between 40 and 50 years old though. I don't think that much thought was put into that. The plot of this movie simply revolves around Shang Tsung wanting to cheat and kill the heroes of Earthrealm so he can win a tournament named Mortal Kombat. Bit on the nose? You're watching a movie about a video game. Cole then meets a character named Jax who has a very high interest in a dragon mark that Cole has on his chest. If this movie was made in the early 2000s though, Terry Crews would easily have been cast as Jax. Whilst out for dinner, Cole is attacked by Sub-Zero when snow randomly starts to fall outside. Sub-Zero turns the snow to ice, then launches it towards the shop they are at. This dude gets absolutely clobbered by a chunk of ice, but he wasn't in the shot beforehand. Maybe that guy has his own abilities. Jax arrives in the nick of time to pick Cole and his family up to drive them away to safety, but then abandons the car after taking the car down a back alley, completely ruining his original motive. Jax tells Cole that he needs to find a woman named Sonya Blade, and thus begins a fight between Jax and Sub-Zero. I'll let you have a guess who wins out of this one. On the left side of the ring, we have one guy who has pretty big biceps and knows how to punch, and then on the other side of the ring, we have a guy who can control ice, water, anything liquid really. Yeah, Jax gets his arms frozen and then shattered like it's your heart after being rejected from that thirsty DM you sent back in 9th grade. And then he gets pushed off the side, which realistically should have killed him. Can someone help him out? Maybe lend him a hand? Or two? This shot, however, of the ice freezing the bullets is fucking awesome. Cole then goes to meet Sonya Blade, and I just want to take a second to say how I appreciate that rather than breaking through the fence when he arrives, Cole pulls a car up to it and then jumps off the roof. I don't know why, but I really liked the detail of how that was done. Upon arriving, Sonya wonders where Jax is and then proceeds to text him on her mobile phone. I don't know who's going to tell her, but I don't think Jax will be able to text her back. We then get an exposition dump where the dragon markings and a great tournament get explained to us. If you have a dragon mark, you have been chosen to fight in Mortal Kombat. We also meet Kano, who's this movie's comedy relief. He's also Russian.
Do I sound Russian to you, you fucking idiot?
It turns out as well that the dragon markings can be transferred to anyone, as long as they were the ones to kill the person who had the mark. Yeah. Doesn't make a lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. If your grandma who's in a coma for some reason has a dragon mark and you pull the plug, does that mean you get the tattoo? If someone were to slip on a puddle that was placed there on accident and, you know, they died, even though it's an accident and you know, the water being there's an accident and stuff, would I get the would the person who caused the accident get the dragon mark tattoo? Kano, Sonya and Cole then face off against Reptile, who was sent by Shang Tsung before Kano rips its heart out and...
Kano wins.
Oh, Jesus Christ. As I mentioned just earlier, Kano is the comedic relief for this movie, and he has some absolute pearlers.
Where is it?
You got a pen? You want to write this down? Get fucked.
But where there's pearls, there's also clams. While some of his jokes work, some of them absolutely flop, and his call-outs can become stale really quickly.
And then that lizard thing took off half of my face. Lucky for me, you can hardly notice it.
The heroes group together and travel to Raiden's temple, another popular character from the franchise, but in this movie, he's pretty pointless and doesn't do very much. Sonya and Kano also have a fight in the desert on the way there, because Sonya doesn't have a mark. And in all honesty, this fight completely comes out of nowhere, and isn't even close to set up. The only reason this fight happens is because they need a fight every 10 minutes, or it's not a Mortal Kombat movie. So they do whatever they can to progress the story to the next fight, even if it doesn't make any sense to the story. We then meet another popular character, Liu Kang, who I honestly thought was like an old grandma based on the shot that he's introduced in. Liu Kang can also shoot fire out of his hands and shoots Kano despite needing these heroes. What if that one blast alone killed him? Liu Kang lectures the group and tells them that in order to defeat their enemies, they need to unlock their inner arcana, which is like their superpower. So essentially the heroes need to grind XP to learn their ultimate ability. Sonya also finds Jax at the temple and now realizes maybe sending that text was a little disrespectful. The heroes meet Lord Raiden, who in my opinion looks absolutely shit when it comes to the grey eye effect. Raiden then tells them that they all aren't worthy, and this electric motherfucker thinks he's Thor or something. The villains then arrive at the temple pretty much right after the heroes because they used fast travel and realised, hey, we better speed this movie up a bit. I mean this as well because Kung Lao, a guy who has a sharp hat, just appears out of nowhere, and we're just sort of expected to know who these characters are. No joke, when I went and saw this movie with my dad and brother in the cinema, when Kung Lao appeared, my dad literally turned to me and said, "Who's the sombrero guy?" So yeah, that happened, and then... who the fuck are you? You can speak English.
Yes! I'm disappointed.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, disappointed. I'm Alex. Shang Tsung, Sub-Zero, and Mileena have arrived to kill Earth's heroes and win Mortal Kombat once and for all. But Raiden decides it's probably best just to turn on the VPN for safety. He raises an electric shield which keeps the villains out, so the villains just give up and leave.
The name is Kung Lao, descendant of the great Kung Lao.
The heroes just move on as well and start training, despite only a minute ago having their lives at risk. It's weird to me that just after the villains and heroes meet, they go and just start training while the villains just piss off somewhere else. It didn't need to be in the movie. The only part I enjoyed about the training section is seeing Kano get his ass handed to him by Liu Kang when he continually spams a lower attack.
That's the only move you know, mate. Oh, fuck.
Down and circle can be overpowered. Jax has chicken legs for arms now, by the way. I still don't know how he survived this though. In order for the heroes to discover their arcana, it must come from your soul. The group decide that it's best just to piss off Kano, in hopes to have his ability awakened. It works, but how did they know it would work? If it didn't work, you'd just have a really pissed off Australian, and in my opinion, that's scarier than a laser beam. Cole doesn't find his special ability because he's still looking for a little bit of personality, and then we find out that Cole is a descendant of Hanzo Hasashi, otherwise known as Scorpion, or even better, the guy who died at the start. Then, Raiden does what only makes sense and sends Cole home to where his family is. I don't know why you wouldn't send Sonya home instead, but here we are. I mentioned that we just get shown characters and are just expected to just know who they are and so on. This couldn't be more true when we see Shang Tsung next, and there's just another 3 villains who just appear. There's Natara, a vampire woman with wings, General Reiko, who's just this guy with a big hammer, and Kabal, who is basically the Flash but with knives. And personally, I think that Kabal is one of the coolest looking Mortal Kombat characters out there. Kano is visited by Kabal and is offered some extra moolah and an under the table rub in order to betray the heroes. Kano just agrees and betrays them, which leads to the electric shield being brought down. The villains arrive again to the temple, whilst Cole is attacked by Four Arms, a famous Ben 10 hero. However, Four Arms looks a little bit different here and goes by the name of Goro. They fight it out in a montage of cuts between the heroes and enemies. Jax gets slammed into a rock, Cole gets squashed by a shed, Mileena licks something hard and spiky. Kano has also gotten really good with his laser beam eye, despite only knowing about it for 5 minutes. Natari flies in and goes to attack Kung Lao, but Kung Lao has played Mortal Kombat, you see. And he knows the right button combos to pull off a what the fuck, that was awesome!
Flawless victory.
Seeing his family get attacked activates Cole Young's ability, which is this armored suit that just allows him to take punches and absorb the impact. The way I would like to describe this though is, think of Black Panther's vibranium suit and how it absorbs energy, and then find the discounted version on Wish and select its appearance to that of Aquaman. They somehow managed to make Cole Young even less interesting. Activating this suit also activated Cole's plot armor, and guess what? Now he knows how to fight incredibly well. You remember when he was being thrown around and beaten up like a minute ago? Not anymore. He has plot armor. They could have even taken a path where they eventually made Cole Young this new iteration of Scorpion or something, and I feel like it would have worked so much better than whatever this is. One thing I really hate about this movie is that the characters just know how to use their abilities straight away. Like, they don't learn about them. It's just instant. So this results in Cole just somehow knowing how to grow these blades and kill Goro. Another example of this is when we see Jax next, who goes to help Sonya out, who's trapped under a rock. As he lifts this rock up, his mechanical arms just upgrade themselves. I mean, they look a lot better, but it just doesn't make sense. If all it took Jax was requiring a little bit of effort to upgrade his arms, he should have tried wanking. Raiden brings Cole back now that he has his Arcana, only to teleport the heroes somewhere else, but it's stopped, and then this happens.
He's about to get his soul sucked.
What? Kung Lao gets his soul taken by Shang Tsung, and if I had any advice to give, it would be next time wear a fedora. I heard it helps in preventing you from getting sucked. Raiden teleports the heroes into a white room called the Void, where the villains can't follow them, and they come up with a plan to be sent to different areas and fight the villains one-on-one. That's just like the games! Raiden also mentions that he has the ability to teleport anyone, anywhere, and does so by sending the villains to where our heroes are located. This ability would have been really helpful when the villains first arrived at the temple, yes? Instead of just putting a shield up. Is there any meaning to this movie's plot if Raiden could just send people wherever he wanted? Am I thinking too much about this? I'm thinking too much about this. Anyways, they get teleported to different arenas. Jax is going to fight General Reiko, Sonya is going to fight Kano, Cole and Liu Kang are going to fight Mileena and Kabal. I'm going to fight with the dark and depressing thoughts that are in my head. You know, everything's happening. We get another montage of everyone's fights cut together, which is cool, but also annoying. I know the rounds last 90 seconds in the game, but you aren't even giving us half of that here. I want to see the full fights, not just cuts of them. The jumpy editing of the fights also happens so often that it's hard to tell what's happening. Ultimately, the heroes are suddenly capable of their enemies and can now defeat them. Jax goes for his in-game finisher where he punches Reiko's face in before obliterating his head. Sonya dodges Kano's laser beam attacks before grabbing a nearby garden gnome and stabbing Kano through the eye. She gets the dragon mark. I really do believe that Kano could have probably dodged this attack if only he'd gnome earlier. Liu Kang avoids Kabal's attacks, gets sliced by a blade before performing a bicycle kick on Kabal and then summoning a fire dragon, which would only burn Kabal a little bit. Just kidding, this guy's fucking fried.
Fatality for Kung Lao.
Please don't. Mileena is about to give Cole the suck of his life before Sonya just appears and uses her ability on Mileena, causing a massive hole through her ribcage, which oddly leaves her spine intact, even though it's a circle and would cut that out. Yeah, I guess I'm using my brain too much. I don't know how Sonya figured out her ability so quickly. Hers might have been pay to win. For my fight, I went and saw a therapist. And I won. Sub-Zero visits Cole's family and then taunts Cole into following him into a trap. This is where Cole finds his family has been frozen very much like Hanzo's in the beginning. An epic fight takes place where Cole might just actually show a bit of potential and...
Get over here!
Okay, so Scorpion is just here now, and I guess whilst living in hell, he just learnt English or something. Now don't get me wrong here, but the fight between actual Sub-Zero and Scorpion is really well done, and I think is the takeaway from the movie. The choreography is brilliant, and there's some effects that really sell it. At one point, Sub-Zero cuts Scorpion, only to then freeze his blood and stab Scorpion with it. I think that Sub-Zero is really cool. All whilst this fight is happening, Cole is trying to punch his family out of the ice. That's fucking stupid. There's some really nice details in this fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion as well. In the beginning of the movie, Sub-Zero gets his face slashed when Scorpion retracts his blade. But here, Sub-Zero remembers that and uses that experience to catch the retracting blade. It's just a really nice callback. Let's establish something really quickly. Cole's family has been frozen, right? They're dead. Much like Hanzo's family in the beginning. That's how it should have played out anyway. What actually happens is that somehow, Cole's family is still alive. I guess because they got more screen time. This decision that was made here took me right out of the movie because it makes Sub-Zero sense when you compare it to what happened at the start. Hanzo's family were frozen outside, and while that would still be enough to kill them, Cole's family is frozen inside a room, where everything else is frozen. If anything, Cole's family is even more dead than Hanzo's. Okay, I get it, right? They survived, alright? They survived, whatever. But what about hypothermia? Anyways, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Cole walk into a bar, and it's time for our final showdown. Sub-Zero sheds his armor and freezes Scorpion to the floor. Scorpion then blasts the floor with fire and brings the family to life, whilst freeing himself. Following this, Sub-Zero gets his ass handed to him before Scorpion removes his mask and fries him to a crisp. And I would go and call that cold fries. Not good? Not good. You write the fucking script next time.
When will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Cole and his family are safe. Cole even gives the girls a towel to warm up. If Rose had known that would work, Jack may never have froze in the water. Raiden, who at this point in the movie I realised was just pointless, arrives as well as Shang Tsung. You see, the prophecy has been fulfilled and the heroes of Earthrealm have won Mortal Kombat. Shang Tsung tells Raiden that death is only another portal, which basically just tells the audience that this entire movie is pointless, because no one really dies. Thanks for that. I wasted $16 and 2 hours of my time on this. That's literally Mortal Kombat. They find the heroes, they fight, the villains are killed but they aren't really killed, and it's all just a setup for the next movie. I think this movie could have really worked if it focused on just Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and I mean it, the start of this movie is actually really good. Maybe that's why they released the first 7 minutes online, to lure people in. There's a lot of characters in Mortal Kombat, and why'd you pick Cole? Sub-Zero and Scorpion have the most character development in the movie, and the rest is pretty much non-existent. Even the garden gnome used to kill Kano had more character development than General Geiko. In terms of overall looks, I think Raiden looks the worst with his eyes being grey. I've seen better filters on Snapchat. I just don't know why they thought this looked good. The rest of the character designs are really top-notch, especially characters like Melina. Her character design is awesome, but just fucking gross to look at. And she's definitely one girl I would hate to be receiving a BJ off. I think there's some really solid fights in this as well, especially when it comes to the choreography. The visuals at times are pretty awesome as well, and I think Sub-Zero really just steals the attention whenever he's on screen. In saying that though, there's some really bad fights that aren't enjoyable to watch either. For example, the fight between Jax and Reiko has no weight because Reiko is never developed as a character, and he also just doesn't fight. I think the whole aspect of the dragon tattoo is pretty stupid, and the whole if you kill them it transfers to you is even worse. I accidentally hit some child with my car who has the dragon mark. Does that mean I now have the mark? What happens if I take down someone who already has a dragon tattoo whilst I have a dragon tattoo? Does that mean I get 2 dragon tattoos? One of the things I did really enjoy about this movie though, and as a fan of the Mortal Kombat games, was the amount of fan service included in this. This movie is absolutely filled with Easter eggs and references. A couple of them include characters featured in imagery, Kitana's fan, Shinnok's amulet, but I think my personal favourite is the down forward LP, featured in the background when Jax is looking for Sub-Zero. Doing this combo in the games allows you to shoot ice balls as Sub-Zero. The end fight, however, is insanely fun to watch and visually just great, but I believe this movie is so much better if you can just switch your brain off. What I mean by that is switch your brain off watching this like you would when you go and see the latest Fast and Furious movie. That's what I mean. Either way, the Sub-Zero actor has signed on for 3 more of these movies, so I guess there's gonna be more. I would love to see characters like Baraka or the noob Cybot version of Bihan in one of the upcoming movies. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a big like or a little like depending on your thumb size. Please do share this video with a friend or two and follow all my socials down below. And if you don't do any of those things, well, you might just be Sub-Zero because you, my friend, are cold-hearted. My gorgeous fiancée Kara bought me this because I kept stealing her dressing gown. It's got like wool and everything in it. It's called a Huggle. It's like a knockoff hoodie. But this may be the best thing that I own.